Ah, my goddess. Oh, my goddess. Whichever way you like to say it, this series was fantastic. I remember going to my school library where we were starting to get in a lot of manga, and one of the books was Oh My Goddess, or however you want to say it. Ultimately, I fell in love with the book, but it was a bit of a slog to get through, I remember at first, because there was just so much dialogue, and sometimes it was a little hard to make certain things out. Not to mention, the art wasn't completely as polished as it would be as it went along. But there was a lot of heart from the beginning. Not to mention the main character, Keiichi, and his thought of challenging the fact that he was able to just get any request from this weird girl who appeared after he dialed a number just kind of was such a situation that intrigued me. It hooked me from the jump. And a series that would kind of be a little bit odd to adapt for today's way of doing things since it involved a rotary phone. And it's so steeped in the era of the time, mostly because it involves a lot of older machinery and stuff like that. But the artwork that came from, and I'm going to butcher this name, Fujishima Kosuke, and just what he could do was just really fabulous. It was a magnificent work of art on every level, from the storytelling to the characters to the personalities of the characters. And it really helps that I was also a big fan of You're Under Arrest, another series that I think he originally created as well. So there was a lot of precedent for me just loving this person's art style and just the way he did things. Character of Belle Dandy, so sweet and nice and innocent, and when we started to be introduced to her sisters, like Scold and Erd, oh my goodness, Erd's so gorgeous. And the romantic rival of Peorth. I think that's how you say her name. And not to mention the fact that as things went along, as we were introduced to more and more characters, it just continued to be a who's who of these fun and interesting entities. The challenges that Keiichi and Belle Dandy face as they grew to be more and more in love with each other. And it's so funny too because Belle Danny was just such a almost bland, nice girl at first, but when you got to know her and got to know her personality, it's just like, oh no, she's far from that. She has her own forms of anger issues. She just doesn't let it show too much. But as the series went on, I always rooted for the two of them. At no point was I just like, oh, okay, she'll be better off with someone else or this or that. No, 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 no. Belle Dandy's hurdle to bear was the fact that she had grown in love with this mortal, despite the fact that they ended up being kind of stuck together because of a foolish wish. They ended up growing to like each other. And that, if nothing else, kind of felt a little bit natural. And how she kind of took the situation that she found herself in stride as well. I love that. Belle Denny has the tendency to just go with the flow a lot of the times, and it can be kind of weird to see her when she's actually upset, but it's also a little bit nice too. Honestly, the world of Oh My Goddess was a great one. And the finale of the series, ah man, 25 years running. Just, it's hard to imagine going through this series. Naturally, I wasn't there from the start. I was reading it for about, I'd say about almost 15 years, but even still, that's a long time to be reading a series, to be watching its ups and downs, its sideways and backways. But unlike a lot of other manga series that'll start up and, eventually reach a rushed conclusion, or it'll never reach a conclusion in general, I'm glad this series got to end on its own terms. It started strong and it ended strong, and for that I feel so grateful. It's not the best series around, no, 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 and I'd hardly say it's somebody's favorite. I could hardly imagine such a thing. But it's a nice story altogether. You don't miss out on anything by reading through it. It's a good time, it's a fun time, and man, is it a sweet time. And fantastic art. Seriously, when I tell you the artwork, Fujishima has a masterstroke when it comes to the design of machines and the magical elements of the goddesses. And it hit every time. There was never a solid complaint from me from art in terms of artwork, except those few times when it came to the way some of the characters looked. That was the only thing. Some of the characters just kind of looked a little wonky in places. But that clears up fairly quickly as time goes on. A relic of a bygone era of the late 80s and early 90s. But I'm thankful to have spent the time that I did with it. And I want to hear from you. Did you watch or read Oh My Goddess or Ah My Goddess? Were you a big fan of it? Is it your favorite series? Did you watch it all the way to the end? Did you read it all the way to the end? Because it did reach a conclusion. That's the thing. It had a solid conclusion. And I hope that if nothing else, you'll think about maybe joining in and getting to the end as well. In terms of the anime, they never adapted the final arc, and I hope someday in the future they will. Maybe reanimate the whole thing, because it's definitely worth the journey to see these two characters, a mortal and a goddess, fall in love over time. Oh, kind of makes you wish you had a goddess of your own. Or maybe you found a deity to worship. Let, let me know in the comment section below. And hey, if you like this video, like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you next time. Have an heavenly good day. Bye-bye.